They say love is blind, but I wish someone had told me that marriage has 20/20 vision. My name is Naomi, and 3 days ago, my white husband looked me dead in the eye and told me I was nothing more than a charity case who'd forgotten to be grateful. What he didn't know, what none of them knew, is that his grandfather's will had a little surprise buried in the fine print, and I'd been married just long enough for it to matter. By the time Ethan kicked me out of his house, I was already worth more than he could ever imagine. And tomorrow morning, I'm walking into that boardroom to show him exactly what happens when you try to throw away a woman who owns the bank. If you're watching this story unfold, hit subscribe and tell me where you're watching from, because you're about to see the most expensive mistake a man ever made. I wake up every morning at 5:30, not because I set an alarm. My body just knows when it's time to start moving around this house like a ghost. The marble floors are cold under my bare feet as I pad to the kitchen. Everything in this place is cold. The granite counters, the stainless steel appliances. Even the air feels different here, like it's been filtered through money and stripped of anything warm. I make Ethan's coffee first. 2 sugars, no cream. He likes it strong enough to wake the dead. I learned that 3 years ago when we first got married, back when he still smiled at me in the mornings. The coffee machine hums while I stare out the window at the perfectly manicured lawn. Everything here is perfect. Perfect grass. Perfect hedges. Perfect life. At least, that's what it looks like from the outside. Good morning, baby. Ethan's voice makes me turn around. He's already dressed in one of his expensive suits, the kind that cost more than most people make in a month. His blonde hair is slicked back, and he smells like that cologne that costs $300 a bottle. Morning. I hand him his coffee. Our fingers don't touch. He takes a sip and makes that little approving sound he always makes, like I'm his personal barista instead of his wife. Don't forget about dinner tonight, he says, scrolling through his phone. The Hendersons will be there, and the Washingtons. Oh, and my mother. My stomach drops. Margaret Whitmore, the woman who looks at me like I'm something stuck to the bottom of her designer shoe. I remember. I keep my voice steady. 3 years of practice has taught me how to do that. Wear the blue dress, the one Mother bought you. The blue dress, the one that makes me look like I'm playing dress-up in someone else's life. The one that's supposed to make me blend in with all the other wives at these dinner parties. All the other white wives. Okay. He kisses my forehead without really looking at me and heads for the door. Love you. The words hang in the air after he leaves. They don't feel real anymore. They feel like something he says because he's supposed to, like saying bless you after someone sneezes. I finish my own coffee in the silence of this big, empty house. When we first moved in here, I thought I'd feel like a queen. Now I just feel like I'm rattling around in someone else's castle. The house phone rings. I know who it is before I answer. Naomi, dear. Margaret's voice is sweet as poison. I wanted to call about tonight's dinner. Yes, ma'am? I've invited some very important people who matter to Ethan's career. I trust you'll remember that. What she really means is, don't embarrass us. Don't remind anyone where you came from. Don't let them see the girl who used to work at the medical clinic downtown, answering phones and filing insurance papers. Of course. Good. And Naomi? Do try to smile tonight. You looked so serious at the last gathering. The last gathering, where Senator Richardson asked me if I was the help, and everyone laughed like it was the funniest joke they'd ever heard. Where I smiled and pretended it didn't cut me right down to the bone. I'll smile. Wonderful. See you tonight, dear. She hangs up without saying goodbye. Margaret Whitmore doesn't say goodbye to people like me. She just stops talking when she's done with you. I walk through the house, my footsteps echoing in all this space. 24 rooms, 6 bathrooms. A library full of books nobody reads. A dining room that seats 12, but only gets used when Ethan wants to impress someone. In the master bedroom, I open the closet and find the blue dress. It's beautiful, I have to admit. Silk that probably cost more than I used to make in 3 months. But when I hold it up to myself in the mirror, all I see is a costume. I remember when Ethan and I first met. I was working at Dr. Peterson's clinic, and he came in with a broken wrist from some accident on his sailboat. He was different then. Gentler. He asked me about my dreams, my plans. He listened when I talked about maybe going back to school someday. "You're too smart to be stuck behind a desk," he told me. "You could do anything." Back then, I thought he meant it. Back then, I thought he saw something special in me. Now I know what he saw. He saw a project. Something to fix up and show off. Look what I did. Look how I saved this girl from her little life. The afternoon passes slowly. I clean things that are already clean. I organize things that are already organized. I do all the things that make me feel useful in a house where I don't really belong. At 4 o'clock, I start getting ready. Shower, hair, makeup. The whole transformation from Naomi Carter, the girl from East Cleveland, into Mrs. Ethan Whitmore, the perfect wife accessory. The blue dress fits perfectly. Margaret made sure of that. She took me to her personal tailor and had it fitted like a second skin. "We want you to look your best, dear," she said, while the seamstress pinned and tucked. What she meant was, "We want you to look like you belong here." I put on the pearl necklace Ethan gave me for our first anniversary. Real pearls. The kind that came from some oyster that probably lived better than most people. They feel heavy around my neck. At 6:30, Ethan comes home to change. He looks at me and nods approvingly. "Perfect. You look perfect." Perfect. That word again. Like I'm something he's assembled instead of someone he loves. The drive to the restaurant is quiet. Ethan checks his phone while I watch the city go by through the tinted windows of his BMW. We pass my old neighborhood, and I see kids playing in the street, just like I used to. Just like I did before I met a man who promised me the world and gave me a cage with golden bars. The restaurant is the kind of place where they don't put prices on the menu, because if you have to ask, you can't afford it. The maitre d' knows Ethan by name and leads us to a private dining room where everyone's already waiting. There's Senator Richardson and his wife, the Hendersons who own half the banks in the state, the Washingtons, old money so old it's practically fossilized, and Margaret, sitting at the head of the table like a queen holding court. "Ethan, there's my successful son." Margaret stands and kisses both his cheeks. She looks at me and her smile dims just a little. "Naomi, how lovely." I take my seat next to Ethan and fold my hands in my lap. The conversation flows around me like I'm not even here. Business deals, stock options. Someone's vacation home in the Hamptons, another person's yacht. "Tell me, Naomi," Mrs. Henderson says suddenly, and everyone turns to look at me. "What do you do with yourself all day? It must be so nice not having to work." The question hangs in the air. What she really means is, what could someone like you possibly contribute to a conversation like this? "I take care of the house," I say quietly, "and I volunteer at the literacy center downtown." "How?" "Charitable," Senator Richardson says, and there's something in his voice that makes my skin crawl. "It's important to give back to your community. Your community, not our community. Your community, the place where people like me belong." Ethan's hand finds mine under the table, but it doesn't feel like comfort. It feels like a warning. Don't mess this up. The dinner continues. Course after course of food that tastes like cardboard in my mouth. I smile when I'm supposed to smile. I nod when I'm supposed to nod. I play my part perfectly. But something is building inside my chest. Something hot and angry and tired. So tired of pretending. So tired of being small. So tired of making myself invisible so other people can feel comfortable. You know, Mrs. Washington says, cutting into her salmon, it's so refreshing to see young people who understand tradition. So many couples today don't appreciate the importance of, how should I put this? Knowing one's place. The words hit me like a slap. Knowing one's place. And everyone nods like she just said something profound instead of something ugly. I feel Ethan's grip tighten on my hand. A reminder. Stay quiet. Don't make waves. Don't embarrass me. But I'm drowning in this place, in this life, in this version of myself that I've created to make everyone else comfortable. And for the first time in 3 years, I wonder what would happen if I stopped pretending to be grateful for the crumbs they've been throwing me. The dinner finally ends. Handshakes and air kisses and promises to do lunch soon. Margaret kisses Ethan goodbye and gives me one of her plastic smiles. Drive safely, she says. And Ethan? Call me tomorrow. We need to discuss some family business. In the car, Ethan is quiet for the first few blocks. Then he starts talking, and I can hear the disappointment in his voice. You were awfully quiet tonight. I was listening. You could have participated more. These people are important, Naomi. They could open doors for us. Us. Like I have anything to gain from impressing his mother's racist friends. Like any door they might open would ever be for me. What was I supposed to say? He glances at me, and there's something cold in his eyes. Something I've been seeing more and more lately. You could have tried harder. You could have shown some interest in their lives. These people have accepted you, and sometimes I don't think you appreciate that. Accepted me. Like I should be grateful that they let me sit at their table while they made jokes about my people and talked around me like I was deaf and mute. I said thank you. I smiled. I played the part you wanted me to play. It's not about playing a part, Naomi. It's about being grateful for the opportunities you've been given, the life you have now. The life I have now. This beautiful, empty, cold life where I'm treated like a pet who learned a few tricks. We pull into our driveway, and Ethan parks in front of the garage. The house looms in front of us, all lit up and perfect and hollow. Sometimes I think you forget where you came from, he says quietly. Sometimes I think you forget how lucky you are. Lucky. Lucky to be married to a man who loves the idea of me more than the actual me. Lucky to live in a house where I'm a guest who's overstayed her welcome. Lucky to have traded my dreams for a life that looks perfect from the outside and feels like dying on the inside. We walk into the house in silence. Ethan goes straight to his study to check emails. I go upstairs and take off the blue dress, hang it carefully in the closet next to all the other costumes I wear to be the wife he wants me to be. In the bathroom mirror, I look at myself without all the makeup and fancy clothes. Just me. Just Naomi. And I realize I barely recognize the woman looking back at me. Somewhere in the distance, I hear Ethan's phone ring. Then his voice, low and urgent. Then Margaret's voice on speakerphone, sharp and clear. She was completely inappropriate tonight, Ethan. The way she just sat there like a bump on a log. And did you see how she looked at Senator Richardson when he was talking about community outreach? Like she was judging him. Mother, please. She was fine. She was not fine. She was sullen and ungrateful. And frankly, I'm starting to wonder if this whole situation has run its course. This whole situation. That's what I am to her. Not her daughter-in-law. Not even a person. Just a situation that needs to be handled. We can talk about this tomorrow, Ethan says. But his voice has changed. There's something in it I've never heard before. Something that sounds like he's considering his mother's words instead of defending me. I close the bathroom door quietly and sit on the edge of the tub. 3 years of my life. 3 years of making myself smaller and quieter and more acceptable. 3 years of believing that if I just tried hard enough, if I just loved him enough, if I just played the part well enough, I could belong in this world. But you can't belong somewhere that doesn't want you. You can't love someone who's ashamed of you. You can't build a marriage on the foundation of someone else's charity. I think about the girl I used to be. The girl who had dreams and opinions and a voice that she wasn't afraid to use. The girl who believed she deserved better than whatever scraps people were willing to throw her way. That girl is still inside me somewhere, buried under 3 years of trying to be perfect for people who will never see me as anything more than an inconvenience they've learned to tolerate. But she's still there, and maybe it's time to let her out. The next morning feels different. I wake up before the alarm again, but this time I don't rush to make Ethan's coffee. I sit on the edge of the bed for a moment, listening to him breathe, and I feel like I'm seeing everything clearly, for the first time in years. When I finally go downstairs, he's already in the kitchen, making his own coffee. He looks surprised to see me. "You're up late today." "I was thinking." He glances at me while he adds sugar to his mug. "About last night?" "Yeah, about last night." We stand there in the kitchen, and the silence feels heavy, like we're both waiting for something to break. "I'm sorry if Mother was a little harsh," he says finally. "You know how she gets with new people." New people. I've been his wife for 3 years. I've been to dozens of these dinners. I've smiled and nodded and played nice for longer than some people stay married. But to Margaret Whitmore, I'm still new people. I'm still temporary. She wasn't talking to new people last night, Ethan. She was talking to your wife, and you sat there and let her. His jaw tightens. Let her what? Have an opinion? Express concern for our family? Express concern. I can't keep the anger out of my voice anymore. She called me a situation, Ethan. I heard her on the phone with you. I'm a situation that needs to be handled. He sets down his coffee mug harder than necessary. You were listening to a private conversation. It was about me, in my own house. How is that private? Your house? His voice gets quiet, and that scares me more than if he'd yelled. Naomi, this is my family's house. This has been in the Whitmore family for 3 generations. The words hit me like cold water. Your house. My family's house. Not our house. Never our house. I've lived here for 3 years. Yes, because I brought you here. Because I married you and gave you a life you never could have had on your own. There it is. The truth he's been thinking but never saying. I'm here because he allowed it. I have this life because he gave it to me. And just like anything else he's given me, he can take it back whenever he wants. I never asked for you to save me. Didn't you? He turns to face me fully now, and his eyes are cold. When we met, you were working at that clinic for what? $12 an hour, living in that tiny apartment with the broken air conditioner. You couldn't even afford to fix your car. Each word is designed to remind me of my place, to put me back in the box where he first found me. I was building a life. You were surviving, barely, and now look around. He gestures at the kitchen, with its marble counters and professional appliances. Look at what you have. Look at the life you're living. Look at what you've given me, I say quietly. That's what you mean, right? I should be grateful for what you've given me. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. He runs his hands through his hair, the way he does when he's frustrated. I don't understand why you're being like this. Last night was important to me. Those people are important to my career. And you sat there like you didn't want to be there. Maybe because I didn't want to be there. Maybe because I'm tired of smiling while people talk about me like I'm not in the room. Maybe because I'm tired of being grateful for the privilege of being tolerated. Tolerated? His voice gets louder. Naomi, these people have welcomed you into their circle. They've accepted you as one of them. No, they haven't. They've accepted you having a black wife because you asked them to. There's a difference. The word hangs in the air between us. Black. The thing we never talk about. The thing that makes everyone uncomfortable at dinner parties. The thing that makes me different from every other wife in his mother's social circle. Don't make this about race. It is about race, Ethan. It's always been about race. You just don't want to see it because it makes you uncomfortable. That's not fair. What's not fair is you expecting me to smile while Senator Richardson asks me if I'm the help. What's not fair is your mother treating me like I'm some charity case you picked up. What's not fair is you acting like I should be grateful for the privilege of being your token black wife. His face goes red. That's enough. No, it's not enough. It's not nearly enough. I've been holding this in for 3 years, and I'm done. You're being dramatic. I'm being honest. For the first time in years, I'm being honest. He slams his hand on the counter, and I jump. I've never seen him this angry before. Not at me. You want honesty? Fine. Here's some honesty. When I married you, I thought you understood what that meant. I thought you understood that being my wife came with certain responsibilities, certain expectations. Like what? Like being quiet. Like being grateful. Like pretending I don't notice when your friends make jokes about where I came from. Like being supportive. Like understanding that my career, my family, my life existed long before you came into it. His words hit me like a physical blow. His life, his career, his family, all things that existed before me and will continue without me. Things I'm not really part of, just someone who got added to the edges. Then why did you marry me? The question comes out quieter than I intended, but it fills the whole kitchen. For a moment, neither of us says anything. I married you because I loved you, he says finally. But his voice sounds tired now, like he's not sure he believes it anymore. Past tense? I still love you, but I'm starting to think my mother was right about some things. My heart stops. What things? He looks away from me, out the window at his perfect lawn. Maybe we rushed into this. Maybe we didn't really think about what it would mean. Maybe we're just too different. Too different. Not incompatible, not wrong for each other, just too different. Like our differences are something shameful, instead of something that could make us stronger. Different how? You know how. But I need him to say it. I need him to be honest about what he really means. Say it, Ethan. Different backgrounds, different expectations, different everything. Different colors. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. Just like you didn't have to tell me I should be grateful. Just like you didn't have to remind me whose house this is. Just like you didn't have to let your mother call me a situation that needs to be handled. We stare at each other across the kitchen island. 3 years of marriage, and we might as well be strangers. 3 years of me trying to fit into his world. And he's just now admitting that maybe I never belonged there in the first place. I think, he says slowly, we both need some time to think about what we really want. What we really want. Like this is a mutual decision. Like I'm part of this choice instead of something that's being chosen for me. Time to think. Or time for me to pack. Don't be dramatic. I'm not being dramatic. I'm asking a direct question. Do you want me to leave? He doesn't answer right away, and that tells me everything I need to know. I think, he says finally, it might be better if we had some space. Just for a while. Just to figure things out. Space. The word people use when they mean goodbye, but don't want to say it. How much space? I don't know. A few days. A week. However long it takes. However long it takes for what? For me to become someone I'm not? For him to decide whether his black wife is worth the inconvenience she causes? For his mother to find him someone more suitable? And where exactly am I supposed to go while you're figuring things out? You have friends. You could stay with Lena. Lena, my best friend since high school. The one person who never made me feel like I had to apologize for who I am. The one who warned me that marrying into this family might cost me more than I was willing to pay. So I'm supposed to pack up and leave my home so you can have space to decide if you want to stay married to me. It's temporary. Is it? He doesn't answer, and that's answer enough. I walk upstairs to our bedroom. Our bedroom. Except it's not really ours, is it? It's his bedroom in his house in his world, and I'm just someone who's been sleeping there temporarily. I sit on the bed and look around at all the things I thought were mine. The jewelry box on the dresser, the books on the nightstand, the clothes in the closet. All of it feels borrowed now. All of it feels like something I was allowed to use but never actually owned. My phone buzzes. A text from Lena. Coffee later. I have the day off and I miss your face. I stare at the message for a long time. Lena, who never made me feel like I should be grateful just to be included. Lena, who saw right through Ethan from the beginning, but loved me enough to keep her opinions to herself. Lena, who's about to find out that her best friend's perfect marriage was built on quicksand. I text her back. Rain check? Having a rough morning. But before I can put the phone down, it buzzes again. Come over now. Whatever it is, we'll figure it out together. And for the first time in hours, I smile. Because that's what real love sounds like. Not, you should be grateful, or know your place, or maybe we're too different. Just come over now and we'll figure it out together. I start packing a bag, not because Ethan told me to, but because I'm choosing to. Because maybe some space is exactly what I need. Maybe some distance will help me remember who I was before I became Mrs. Ethan Whitmore. Maybe some time away from this house will help me figure out if the woman I've become is worth saving. As I fold clothes into my suitcase, I hear Ethan's phone ring downstairs. Then his voice, talking to someone in that business tone he uses when he's trying to sound important. Then Margaret's voice, clear as day. I'm proud of you, son. It's not easy, but sometimes these things just run their course. Better to end it now before it gets messier. These things. Our marriage is just another one of these things to her. Something that ran its course. Something that's ending before it gets messier. I zip up my suitcase and carry it downstairs. Ethan is still on the phone with his mother, and he looks up when he sees me. I have to go, he tells her and hangs up. That was fast, he says, looking at my bag. I'm efficient. Naomi, I want you to know this doesn't have to be. Permanent? I finish for him. Yeah, you said that already. I do love you. The words sound hollow now. Empty. Like something he's saying because he thinks he should. Not because he means it. I know you think you do. I walk toward the front door, and he follows me. What's that supposed to mean? I turn around to look at him one last time. Standing there in his expensive suit in his expensive house, looking confused and a little hurt, like he can't understand why I'm not more grateful for his generosity. It means you love the idea of me, Ethan. You love having a wife who makes you look progressive and open-minded. You love telling people about how you saved me from my little life. But you don't love me. You don't even know me. That's not true. When's my birthday? He blinks. What? When's my birthday? What's my favorite color? What did I want to be when I grew up? What's my biggest fear? The silence stretches between us. That's what I thought, I say quietly. You know Mrs. Ethan Whitmore, the woman who smiles at dinner parties and wears the right dresses and doesn't embarrass you in front of your friends. But you don't know Naomi Carter. You never bothered to learn. I open the front door, and the morning air hits my face. It smells like freedom. Where are you going? He asks. To remember who I am. And I walk out of his house, carrying my one small suitcase, leaving behind 3 years of trying to be someone I was never meant to be. Lena's apartment is everything mine isn't. Small, cluttered, warm, real. She takes one look at me standing in her doorway with my suitcase and pulls me into a hug that smells like her vanilla lotion and the lavender soap she's used since we were teenagers. "Oh, honey," she says into my hair. "What did that man do now?" I don't cry until I'm sitting on her couch with a cup of coffee that's too strong and a box of tissues that's seen better days. Then it all comes out. The dinner, the argument, the way he looked at me like I was something he was tired of carrying. Lena listens without interrupting. She's good at that. Always has been. When I'm done, she sits back and shakes her head. "I should have said something years ago." "You did say something. I just didn't want to hear it." "I said he was trouble. I didn't say he was going to try to erase you." We sit in comfortable silence for a while. Outside, I can hear kids playing in the courtyard, music from someone's radio, life happening in all its messy, imperfect glory. It's loud and chaotic, and absolutely nothing like the tomb-quiet perfection of Ethan's house. "What are you going to do?" Lena asks. "I don't know. Find an apartment, I guess. Figure out how to be me again." "And the divorce?" The word hits me like a punch. Divorce. The end of everything I thought I wanted. The admission that I was wrong about love, about marriage, about thinking I could build a bridge between his world and mine. I don't know about that either. My phone buzzes. A text from Ethan. "We should talk when you're ready." I show Lena the message and she snorts. "When you're ready? Like this is all on your timeline. Like he's not the one who kicked you out." "He didn't kick me out exactly. Baby." Lena gives me that look she's been giving me since we were 17. The one that says I'm being too nice again. "He told you to pack. He said you needed space. He let his racist mama call you a situation. That's kicking you out with extra steps." She's right. I know she's right. But admitting it means admitting that the last 3 years of my life were a lie. It means accepting that the man I married never really saw me as an equal partner. It means starting over at 29 when I thought I had everything figured out. "I don't even know where to begin," I say. "You begin by taking care of yourself. You begin by remembering that you're worth more than being someone's charity project." That night, I sleep on Lena's couch and dream about the clinic where I used to work. Dr. Peterson's office, where I knew everyone's name and everyone knew mine. Where I was good at my job and proud of what I did. Where I was just Naomi, not Mrs. Anyone. I wake up thinking about something Dr. Peterson told me once, right before I got married. "You're smart, Naomi. Smarter than you give yourself credit for. Don't let anyone make you forget that." I'd laughed it off then. Told him I was just answering phones and filing papers. But he'd shaken his head. "You were the only one who caught that billing error last month. The one that would have cost us thousands. You noticed patterns no one else saw. You've got a good head for details, for seeing how things connect. Don't waste that." Sitting on Lena's couch at 6 a.m, I remember something else. Something that happened during our first year of marriage, when I was still trying to be helpful instead of just decorative. Ethan had been stressed about some business deal. Something about a trust fund and family assets. He'd left papers scattered all over his desk, and I'd tidied them up like a good wife. But while I was organizing them, I'd noticed something odd. There was a document mixed in with everything else. Something about oversight authority and successor trustees. I'd read it because I was curious, because I'd always been good with details, because I genuinely wanted to understand the things that were important to him. The document was about his grandfather's trust. Old money, carefully managed, with very specific rules about who could control what and when. Most of it was standard rich people stuff that I didn't understand. But one clause had stood out. In the event of marriage, the spouse would be granted certain oversight privileges after a 3-year period. Something about protecting family assets from potentially harmful decisions. Something about requiring spousal consent for major financial moves. I'd asked Ethan about it at dinner that night, thinking I was showing interest in his family's business. He'd gotten upset. "That's not something you need to worry about," he'd said. "Those are just old legal documents. Grandfather was paranoid about gold diggers." Gold diggers. Even then, he'd managed to make it about money, about me potentially being after something, instead of just trying to understand his world. "I wasn't worried about it," I'd said. "I was just curious." "Well, don't be. Family business is complicated. It's better if you focus on other things. Other things, like being pretty and quiet and grateful. But sitting here now, remembering that conversation, something clicks into place. 3 years. The document had said 3 years, and we've been married for 3 years and 2 months. I find myself wondering if that document is still in Ethan's desk. I find myself wondering what exactly that clause meant. I find myself remembering Dr. Peterson's words about being good with details, about seeing how things connect. Lena comes out of her bedroom in her scrubs, getting ready for her shift at the hospital. "You're up early," she says. "Couldn't sleep. You want to come with me today? I could use help in the children's ward. Nothing official, just reading to kids or organizing supplies. Might be good to get your mind off things." It's tempting. The idea of being useful again, of having a purpose beyond looking pretty at dinner parties. But I shake my head. I need to make some phone calls today. About apartments? About other things. After Lena leaves for work, I sit with my coffee and think about that document. About 3-year waiting periods and oversight authority. About Ethan's grandfather, who apparently didn't trust his grandson's judgment enough to give him complete control over the family money. I think about Margaret's words on the phone, about situations that have run their course, about ending things before they get messier. Messier how? Messier because I might start asking questions about things that aren't supposed to be my business? Messier because a wife has different legal rights than a girlfriend? Messier because someone who's been married for 3 years might have access to things that someone who's only been around for 6 months doesn't? I find my phone and scroll through my contacts until I find the number I'm looking for. Daniel Ross. The family attorney who handled our prenup, who explained all the legal documents I'd signed without really understanding them. I remember him being kind during those meetings. Professional, but not cold. He'd taken the time to explain things in simple terms, to make sure I understood what I was agreeing to. He'd even suggested I get my own lawyer to review everything, though Ethan had said it wasn't necessary. "It's just standard stuff," Ethan had insisted. "Daniel's been the family lawyer for 20 years. We can trust him." But Daniel had looked at me with something that might have been sympathy, and said, "Mrs. Carter, you have every right to independent legal counsel. These documents will affect your future significantly." I'd declined because I was young and in love and stupid, because I trusted Ethan to look out for my interests along with his own, because I thought marriage meant we were on the same team. Now, sitting in Lena's tiny kitchen, I wonder what Daniel Ross would say if I called him today. If I asked him about trust documents and 3-year waiting periods and oversight authority. I wonder what he'd say if I told him my husband just asked me to leave our house so he could have space to think about our marriage. I wonder what he'd say about wives who've been married for just over 3 years having certain legal rights, even when their husbands would prefer they didn't. My hands are shaking as I dial his number. It's early, but lawyers start work early, don't they? Ross and Associates, this is Daniel Ross. His voice is exactly like I remember. Calm, professional, kind. "Mr. Ross, this is Naomi Whitmore, Naomi Carter. I'm married to Ethan Whitmore." "Mrs. Whitmore, how can I help you?" "I need to ask you about some legal documents, about the trust paperwork I signed when Ethan and I got married." There's a pause. "Are you calling about divorce proceedings?" The question hits me like cold water. Divorce proceedings. Is that what this is? Is that what I'm doing? I don't know, I say honestly. Maybe. But right now, I just need to understand some things about the documents I signed, about what they mean. I see. Are you represented by counsel currently? No, I don't have a lawyer. Mrs. Whitmore, given the potential for conflict of interest, I would recommend that you seek independent legal representation before we discuss any details of the trust documents. But you could tell me general information, right? Hypothetical information? Another pause. Longer this time. Mrs. Whitmore, are you in a safe situation currently? The question surprises me. Yes. I mean, I'm not in danger or anything. I'm staying with a friend while my husband and I figure some things out. I see. And this friend is someone you trust? Completely. Good. Mrs. Whitmore, I'm going to give you the name of an attorney who specializes in family law and trust disputes. Someone who has experience with complex financial arrangements. I think you should speak with her before we have any further conversation. Mr. Ross, can I ask you something, just as a general question? I can try to answer generally. If someone has been married for 3 years, and there were trust documents involved in the marriage contract, and one spouse asked the other spouse to leave the family home, would that have any bearing on the legal situation? The silence on the other end of the phone goes on so long, I think he might have hung up. Mrs. Whitmore, he says finally, his voice very careful. I think you should call that attorney today. Her name is Sarah Chen, and she's very good at what she does. I'm going to give you her direct number. Mr. Ross? Yes? Is there something I should know? Something I should be worried about? Mrs. Whitmore, I've been practicing law for 30 years, and in my experience, when someone starts asking questions about trust documents and marriage contracts, it's because they suspect there might be something worth asking about. Sarah Chen will be able to advise you properly. He gives me the number, and after I hang up, I stare at my phone for a long time. Something worth asking about. I think about Ethan's reaction when I'd mentioned that document years ago. The way he'd shut down the conversation, told me not to worry about family business. The way Margaret had talked about things running their course and ending before they got messy. I think about how quickly this separation happened. How easily Ethan agreed to me leaving. How he didn't fight for us. Didn't suggest counseling. Didn't even seem particularly sad. I think about 3-year waiting periods and oversight authority, and the possibility that I might not be as powerless as I thought I was. I call Sarah Chen's number. Chen Law Group, this is Sarah. Hi, my name is Naomi Whitmore. Daniel Ross gave me your number. He said you specialize in family law and trust disputes. Yes, I do. How can I help you? I think my husband is trying to divorce me to avoid some kind of legal complication with his family trust. And I think I might have more rights than he's told me about. Can you come in today? Today? Mrs. Whitmore, if you're right about what you suspect, then timing might be very important. How soon can you get to my office? I look around Lena's small apartment, at my suitcase still sitting by the door, at the life I thought I knew falling apart around me. I can be there in an hour. Perfect. And Mrs. Whitmore? Don't sign anything or agree to anything until we talk. Don't respond to any legal documents. Don't even have any detailed conversations about separation or divorce. Can you do that? Yes. Good. See you soon. After I hang up, I sit in the quiet of Lena's apartment and feel something I haven't felt in 3 years. Power. Maybe I'm not as helpless as everyone thinks I am. Maybe there's more to this story than a rich man getting tired of his inconvenient wife. Maybe it's time to find out exactly what I signed 3 years ago, and what it means now that I've been married long enough for certain clauses to take effect. Maybe it's time to stop being grateful for crumbs and start asking for what's actually mine. I get dressed carefully, Not in one of the designer outfits Ethan bought me, but in my own clothes. The black pants and white blouse I wore to job interviews before I became Mrs. Whitmore. The clothes that made me feel capable and strong. Before I leave for the lawyer's office, I text Ethan back. I'm not ready to talk yet. I need to think about some things first. Let him wonder what I'm thinking about. Let him worry about what questions I might be asking. Let him remember that 3 years is a long time to underestimate someone. And that sometimes the quiet wife in the corner is paying more attention than anyone realizes. Sarah Chen's office is nothing like the marble and mahogany world I've gotten used to. It's functional. Real. The kind of place where people come to solve problems, not to impress each other. Sarah herself is younger than I expected. Maybe mid-30s, with sharp eyes behind designer glasses and a handshake that means business. Tell me everything, she says once we're settled in her office. Start from the beginning. So I do. I tell her about meeting Ethan, about the whirlwind romance, about the prenup and trust documents I signed without really understanding them. I tell her about the dinner party, the argument, the way he asked me to leave like I was a house guest who'd overstayed my welcome. And you remember this clause about 3-year oversight authority? Not exactly. It was complicated legal language. Something about spousal consent for major financial decisions. Something about protecting family assets. Sarah makes notes on her tablet. Daniel Ross was smart to send you to me. This kind of situation is exactly what I specialize in. What kind of situation? Wealthy families who use marriage contracts to control inheritance and trust structures. Sometimes they're trying to protect assets. Sometimes they're trying to manipulate timing. Sometimes both. She pulls out a thick folder from her filing cabinet. I've handled several cases involving the Whitmore family trust over the years. Not directly, but peripherally. It's old money, established in the 1920s, with very specific provisions about succession and control. Yeah, what kind of provisions? The kind that suggest Ethan's grandfather didn't entirely trust his heirs to make good decisions with the family fortune. My heart starts beating faster. What does that mean for me? I don't know yet, but I have a feeling your husband and his mother do know, and that's why they want you gone before you figure it out. Sarah picks up her phone and dials a number. Marcus, it's Sarah Chen. I need you to pull all public records on the Whitmore Family Trust. Yes, the banking family. I need everything filed in the last 5 years, especially anything related to marriage provisions or spousal oversight clauses. She hangs up and looks at me. My research assistant is very good at finding things that people prefer to keep buried. While we're waiting, I want you to think carefully about the timeline. When exactly did Ethan start acting differently toward you? I think about it. It was gradual, but it got worse about 6 months ago, around our 3-year anniversary. What happened around that time? Nothing specific, but he started spending more time with his mother, more business meetings, more conversations that stopped when I walked into the room. And this dinner party incident? It felt planned, like they were trying to make me uncomfortable on purpose, like they wanted me to react badly. Sarah nods grimly. Classic manipulation. Create a crisis, make the inconvenient party look unreasonable, then use their reaction as justification for whatever you were planning to do anyway. Her phone buzzes. A text message. Marcus found something. He's sending over preliminary documents now. She looks at her computer screen, and her eyebrows go up. Oh, this is interesting. What? The Whitmore Family Trust isn't just old money, Naomi. It's bank money. Specifically, they own controlling interest in Heritage First Bank. You know, the one with branches all over the state? I feel dizzy. How much controlling interest? 63%. But here's the really interesting part. According to the trust provisions, major decisions require unanimous consent from all trustees, and as of your 3-year anniversary, she scrolls down the document. As of your 3-year anniversary, you became a trustee. The room spins. I became a what? A trustee, with full voting rights on all major financial decisions involving trust assets, including any decision to sell, transfer, or leverage the bank stock. I can't breathe. But I never signed anything. I never agreed to be a trustee. You didn't have to. It was automatic upon reaching the 3-year marriage milestone. It's written into the original trust document from 1924, and it was referenced in your marriage contract. You did sign the marriage contract. But Ethan said those were just standard documents. They were standard for his family, standard for his grandfather was apparently very concerned about future generations being influenced by manipulative spouses or making rash financial decisions. So he created a system of checks and balances. After 3 years of marriage, spouses get equal say in major trust decisions. Equal say in decisions about millions of dollars. Try hundreds of millions. The bank alone is worth over $2 billion. I have to put my head between my knees. $2 billion. And I have voting rights over decisions involving that money. No wonder Margaret Whitmore wants me gone. No wonder Ethan suddenly decided we needed space to think about our marriage. Sarah, what would happen if Ethan tried to divorce me now? That's where it gets complicated. Because of the timing and the trust provisions, a divorce right now would trigger certain protective clauses. You'd be entitled to a significant settlement, but more importantly, you'd retain your trustee status until certain conditions are met. What conditions? Either mutual consent to dissolve the trustee arrangement or... She scrolls through more documents, or a finding of abandonment of marital obligations. The pieces click together in my mind. They're trying to make it look like I abandoned the marriage. Exactly. If you leave the marital home voluntarily and stay away for more than 30 days without attempting reconciliation, it could be construed as abandonment, which would void your trustee rights. But I didn't leave voluntarily. He asked me to leave. Can you prove that? I think about it. Not really. We didn't text about it. No emails. Just the conversation in the kitchen. Then it becomes he said, she said. And the Whitmore family has very expensive lawyers who are very good at making things look the way their clients need them to look. I feel sick. So what do I do? Sarah smiles, and it's not entirely pleasant. Well, the first thing you do is stop being a victim. You're not some poor girl who got kicked out by her rich husband. You're a trustee of a multi-billion-dollar trust who's being manipulated into giving up her legal rights. But I don't know anything about banking or trusts or business. You don't need to. You just need to exercise your rights. And the first right you need to exercise is your right to call a trustee meeting. A what? According to these documents, any trustee can call a meeting with 48 hours notice. All major decisions have to be discussed in formal session with all trustees present. Who are the other trustees? Ethan, his mother, and the family attorney Daniel Ross in his capacity as successor trustee. But here's the beautiful part. Decisions require unanimous consent, which means you have veto power over anything they want to do. My phone buzzes. Another text from Ethan. Mother wants to talk to you. She thinks we can work things out. I show the text to Sarah, and she laughs. I bet she does. I bet she wants to work things out very badly, especially if they were planning to make some major moves with the trust assets, and they just realized they need your signature. What kind of major moves? Sarah makes another phone call. Marcus, can you check recent SEC filings for Heritage First Bank? Anything about mergers, acquisitions, or major stock transactions? Yes, I'll wait. She puts the phone on speaker. After a few minutes, Marcus comes back. Sarah, there's been preliminary paperwork filed for a major acquisition. Heritage First is planning to buy out 3 smaller regional banks. The deal is worth about $800 million, and it would need trustee approval by the end of next week. Sarah looks at me with something like admiration. Naomi, you've been played, but not in the way you think. They don't just want you gone because you're inconvenient. They need you gone because without your consent, they can't complete this deal. So all of this, the dinner party, the argument, asking me to leave, it was all to get me out of the way? Most likely, if you'd stayed away for 30 days, they could have proceeded with a finding of abandonment. The deal would go through. They'd make hundreds of millions in profits, and you'd be left with whatever crumbs they felt like throwing your way in the divorce. I think about Margaret's phone call, about ending things before they get messier, about Ethan's sudden desire for space and time to think. How long do I have? The acquisition paperwork shows a deadline of next Friday. That's 6 days. 6 days to decide what I want to do with this information. 6 days to figure out whether I want to be the grateful victim or the woman who fights back. Sarah, hypothetically, what would happen if I said no to this bank deal? You mean if you refuse to give consent as a trustee? Yes. The deal would collapse. Heritage First would lose the acquisition opportunity and probably lose significant money in penalties and fees. The other trustees would be very unhappy. And what would happen if I called a trustee meeting for, say, tomorrow? Sarah grins. They'd have to show up. They'd have to acknowledge your authority. And they'd have to explain why they've been making plans for a major financial decision without consulting you. Even though I'm separated from Ethan? Separation doesn't affect your trustee status. Only divorce or abandonment would do that. I think about Ethan sleeping in his big empty house, probably congratulating himself on handling his inconvenient wife so smoothly. I think about Margaret, making plans for family business that doesn't include the black woman who somehow got voting rights over their fortune. I think about the girl I used to be, the one who was good with details, who noticed patterns, who caught billing errors that would have cost thousands of dollars. Sarah, I want to call a trustee meeting for tomorrow morning, and I want to make sure it's held somewhere public, somewhere official. The law requires it to be held in the Heritage First Bank boardroom, actually. It's written into the trust provisions. Perfect. I want to walk into that boardroom tomorrow morning as a trustee, not as Ethan's wife. I want them to see exactly who they're dealing with. And if they try to intimidate you or pressure you into agreeing to their deal, I think about 3 years of being told to be grateful. 3 years of being made to feel small and quiet and out of place. 3 years of letting other people decide what was best for me. Then, I guess they're going to learn something about the woman they thought they could just dispose of. Sarah starts typing on her computer. I'm drafting the meeting notice now. By law, they have to receive it by end of business today to be valid for tomorrow morning. What should I wear? Wear whatever makes you feel powerful. But remember, you're not going there as someone asking for permission. You're going there as someone who owns part of what they want to control. After I leave Sarah's office, I sit in my car for a long time. My phone has been buzzing with texts from Ethan, from Margaret, all wanting to talk things out and find a solution that works for everyone. But I don't want a solution that works for everyone. I want a solution that works for me. I drive to the mall and buy myself a new outfit. Not the kind of clothes Ethan likes me to wear. Not the costume of the perfect wife. Something sharp and professional and expensive. Something that says I belong in boardrooms and corner offices. The saleswoman who helps me is a young black woman, maybe 25, with natural hair and a confident smile. Special occasion? She asks, while she rings up the navy blue suit and silk blouse. You could say that. I'm taking back my life. Girl, I love that for you. This suit is going to make you feel like you can conquer the world. That's exactly what I need. That night, I stay up late reading everything Sarah sent me about trust law and fiduciary responsibility. I study the documents I signed 3 years ago, understanding them for the first time. I learn about my rights, my authority, my power. And I think about tomorrow morning, when I walk into that boardroom not as the quiet black girl who married above her station, but as Naomi Carter Whitmore, trustee, with voting rights over billions of dollars. Let them try to dismiss me then. Let them try to tell me to be grateful. Let them try to explain why they thought they could plan my life without asking me what I wanted. Tomorrow, they're going to find out exactly what happens when you underestimate a woman who's finally done being underestimated. And if they thought getting rid of me was going to be simple, they're about to learn how wrong they were. Some mistakes are expensive, and some women are worth more than the people who tried to throw them away ever imagined. The end.